Right,
I mean, the short answer is who knows how it'll turn out.
right, okay, so it's not official.
Still a little vote, and
Okay. Okay, everybody, we're ready.
I'll check the stream.
Yeah, let's check the stream, make sure we're good.
I wonder how many times I'll do that before I trust it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We're just affirming that technology is running and streaming live.
I'm not getting it. I'm seeing yesterday's.
I am on there. I'm on the monitor over there.
I am definitely not seeing it on YouTube, but just doesn't mean it's not happening.
Can someone check YouTube with Nancy? It doesn't see us on YouTube yet. Julie doesn't see us yet.
Now here we go.
Oh,
Board
wait.
of Ed meeting. Now we.
Ta-da, okay.
It is now
Okay,
live.
good evening, everyone. I will call the March 11th, 2025, 7 o'clock Board of Ed meeting here together at actually 7:05 PM. Would you mind standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Call to order, roll call.
Kurt Warner.
Jeanette Broder. Sandra Strubar.
Nora Mukarski.
Julie Luby.
Renee Waldron.
Shane Centrella.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Item 2, approval of the agenda. Is there anything to add or change onto the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to item 3, student showcase.
Super. Why don't we start with Hinsdale School? Thea, do you want to come on up? Barb will get that now.
Yeah.
So let me start by introducing Thea Broughton, right? Did I say it correctly? Thea Broughton, whom you may or may not have seen previously. She is our art teacher as of January this school year at Hinsdale School. She came to us with a wealth of experience in other districts, and she is spectacular. We just couldn't be happier. We scored. And she has a second grader with her who we can introduce.
This is Colin.
Hi, Colin.
Hi, Colin.
And she's going to tell us about what second graders are doing in art class, and Colin is going to help.
Okay. We've been working on line shape and color, and we started a project with paper quilts with a jar that they filled with their favorite things that turn into a banner to welcome back Miss Field. And then they did such a wonderful job, we let them free paint. There you go. And this is his free paint. Now, they had to do 2 stages. They had to do crayon and colored pencil on a piece of paper, think about it, and then go on to a regular piece of paper. And when they got done, they watercolored it, so it was 2 steps. Anything you want to add to that? Was it fun? And did you have fun trying to figure out what to do? Yeah. Good. And here's some other ones I can show you. You instantly thought of it? That's great. And here are some of the examples. You can pass them on.
Colin, did you get paint on your fingers?
No?
Wow, that's really good. That's impressive.
They did a super job of not mixing the paint in the trays, not breaking them, and not splashing paint on other people's artwork.
That's really,
Mistake of having something
that's really hard to work with color, watercolor.
Do you like using watercolors?
Makes
makes it beautiful.
What's your favorite color?
All colors, but my most favorite color is white.
Green?
All outside is the blue.
Thank you.
These look like they're a mix of first and second grade.
First and second grade.
Colin, I think you did a great job controlling that watercolor. That's really hard to do. That's fantastic. Wow. And you signed it? You have your name on there?
Yep. And a code.
Yeah, that's so I can keep track of all the 277 pieces of artwork. And each 2 weeks we go through.
Thea, welcome to Winchester Public Schools. It's great to have you on board.
Thank you. I'm really enjoying it.
Really appreciate your time with everyone here tonight as well. I think that's fantastic. Wow.
Thank you.
And you did not get it on your fingers.
Yes.
Colin, do you want to walk your picture right around in front of the board here so everyone can see up close? Just don't trip on the
Wire.
Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
I love the two sides of the butterfly, the way they match and are also different.
Very nice, very nice.
Thank you, Colin, and thank you, Thea.
You're welcome.
Great job.
And then from Pearson, Ms. Giammatteo is actually going to share with us a student showcase, sort of collective way that we are showcasing students as throughout the school. And is
first-
Loretta going to help with that?
So this is Loretta. She's the assistant to the assistant principal. She is in 4th grade, going on 40, and she will be telling you what's happening at Pearson currently.
Oh, well, we're not quite ready for the, we can do that in a little bit.
Oh, the student reports? Okay, yeah.
We're just on
So-
showcase first.
As part of our climate, Pearson is publishing its first newsletter as of tomorrow. If any of you know SMORE, you know it's an interactive newsletter. So we did make copies for you to see, but I also sent the link to your Board of Ed emails, which you can see it online. The reason why it's not a static newsletter is because there are buttons to click. They can press a button and email Barbara and I directly. I know Barbara loves this. And if they want more information for Scholastic, it's a button on the thing. So when you check your emails later tonight, because I know you're so excited, you'll see our first Pearson newsletter. It will be showcasing this time in March. We looked at our spotlights for Read Across America. We looked at our award winners for iReady, Citizenship, and Perfect Attendance. And most importantly, as you will see, we highlighted our new kindness crew in Pearson. There are 17 representatives, one from each class. Teachers were tasked with picking the most empathetic and caring individual. Loretta is one of those students, and we created a kindness tree in our main lobby. Loretta, could you tell how we did the kindness tree?
Okay, so for the kindness tree, we handed out hearts for the students in our classroom, and we had them write an act of kindness and color and decorate them and anything they wanted. And they cut it out, and we gathered them all up, and we stapled them to a board of a kindness tree. And the leaves were the hearts were the leaves for the tree.
Excellent. Next month, in our April edition, we will have a snapshot for every grade level, what they're learning in the classrooms with pictures to go as well. This is a link that can be shared out to all of our parents. Will be going out on School Messenger tomorrow, and this will be a monthly addition to Pearson. So, thank you, Loretta.
Thank you both so much.
Wow.
So
That's
that's
fantastic.
another way that we'll be showcasing the success of our students.
Great idea. Fantastic. Thank you. Okay, item number 4, public comment. The Winchester Board of Ed welcomes you to its business meeting. There are 2 opportunities set aside to hear from the comments from the public. We welcome and encourage participation as a valued part of communicating with the input from the community with the Winchester Board of Ed. We appreciate your adherence to the following if you wish to speak. Complete the requested information on the board, on the sign-in sheet over here on the table. State your name and address when called to speak. You'll be allotted 3 minutes to share your comments with the Winchester Board of Ed. Please be advised it's not the practice of the Board of Ed to engage in dialogue regarding commentary. The superintendent of schools will be directed by the board to prepare an appropriate response in a timely manner. We appreciate your time and thoughtful commentary. Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? Okay, seeing none, thank you, everyone. We'll move to item 5, approval of the minutes. There are several here, but I would like us to take separate motions on each of these, in part because item E, minutes of the special meeting, February 25, people would have to abstain because there were 4 people absent. And what's more, the item H was business in adopting the budget to the town manager, so we can't do it as a one fell swoop. So I'd like to say if we could just move into motions for each of these, that'd be great. Okay, so I would take a motion for item A, minutes of the special meeting, February 11, 2025.
I'll make a motion. Renee?
Thank you, Renee.
Second, Shane.
Thank you, Shane. All in favor? Okay, 1, 2,
Stay one, because I was absent.
5, opposed, 0, abstention, 1. And there's 6 of us. Okay, Lenise, 501. Okay. Item B, the minutes of the Board of Ed meeting, February 11, 2025. Do I have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Thank you, Shane.
Second. Renee?
Thank you, Renee. All in favor? 5. You,
I wasn't there.
you, okay. 501. Thank you, 501. Item C, minutes of the special meeting, February 2025. Do you have a motion to accept?
Expansion.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Kurt. Second, Shane. All in favor? This is 6-0 unanimous. Item D, the minutes of the special meeting, February 24, 2025.
We met too much.
Item D.
I'll make a motion to accept item D. I'll second.
Thank you, Renee and Jeanette. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 6-0, that motion carries. Item E, minutes of the special meeting, February 25, 2025.
I'll make a motion.
Second, Shane.
That's Kurt. Let me just check that real fast, because we, yeah, the absentees
Oh,
there.
yeah, I was not there. 25th. You're right. Sorry.
What did you do, second, first?
I second.
So
I'll
Kurt,
second.
Renee? Okay, the persons in attendance for that on the 25th was Jeanette, Jonathan, Renee, and Kurt. So first Kurt, seconded Renee. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. Opposed, 0. Abstentions? Shane, 2.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. 402, Lenise, for letter E. Okay, so then this is similar. Minutes of the committee meeting, February 25. It's a Budget and Finance Committee meeting. I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Sandra, you were on phone on that one?
Yep.
And Jeanette, you were there?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Sandra and Jeanette. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4, 0. Opposed? Abstention? 2. 402 on item F1. Okay. Item G, minutes of the special meeting, February 27th, 2025. We have a motion to accept.
Make a motion.
Second.
Shane and Renee, thank you. All in favor? This motion carries 6-0. And then finally, the minutes from the special meeting, March 5th, 2025.
Make a motion to accept.
Thank you, Shane.
Second.
Well, that was fast.
Jeanette.
Jeanette will second, okay. Shane and then Jeanette. All in favor? 6-0. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone. Okay, moving on. Item 6, communications, chairperson's comments. I just want the community to know that back on February 25th, we did have a special meeting, if you will, a self-evaluation of the Board of Ed and a mid-year evaluation of the superintendent. We did move into executive session on both of those, but I just want the community to know that we're very reflective in our practices and things that we're doing in the community, and we are very much focus-driven, issues and goals-driven, so we wanted to let you know that we met and visited on that issue as a mid-meeting, February 25th, and we'll revisit all of this at the end of the school year, okay? I just also, we did have a finalist to go into the spelling bee that went to St. Joseph's this past Sunday at St. Joe's. I thought that would be an excellent opportunity for our kids that they're on a college campus, they're performing, and it's exciting to see students. And the other thing I want to let the community know about our Facebook page. It's really great to see it updated, giving to the community information and the things that we're involved with, recognizing students, for example, on iReady progress. I think that's really nice to represent our kids, to have our kids reflected and seen and recognized. I think that's really critical. And I think what that does is that sends a message to our community that we believe I've always said, we're bookends, the teachers, the staff, the faculty, as well as the parents. And part of our bookends is to get our parents out there to vote for this budget that's moving forward. We're in the beginnings of a budgetary process, and it was great to see people at the last meeting that we had. We need to continue that motion and that endeavor to pass a budget that fits all of our kids' needs. Okay? Item B, speaking of students, student representatives' reports.
Marshall, you're up. Before we were chatting, Marshall informed me that he approved of my choice of nerds for a pre-meeting snack. He likes Ring Pops better, but he definitely approves, he said.
Hello, my name is Marshall Whitaker.
I'm not sure it's on, Lindsay.
Oh, yeah, hold one sec, Marshall, we can't hear you well enough.
Hello, my name is Marshall Whitcomb, and I'm in grade 2. I'm going to tell you what's been happening at Hinsdale School lately, school activities and events. We recently had a visit from the Connecticut Science Center. We learned all about the states of matter, such as solids, liquids, and gases. We even saw a spoon melt. Some neat things that students have been learning. Pre-K students have been learning about the plants, the parts of plants, even labeling about plant artwork. Kindergarten students are going to have a virtual meeting with a meteorologist, Ryan Haranahan. We have been learning about the Earth's layers in first grade, and we have been learning about the place value in larger numbers. For example, in 125, school improvements or needs. We would love to see free ice cream day. One great thing. I like reading because it is so fun. I love learning about sharks and reading. Thank you so much for inviting me.
All right. Thank you, Marshall.
Great job, Marshall. Thank you so much. And we are ready for Loretta Benedict.
Hello, my name is Loretta. I'm in 4th grade. I'm going to tell you about what has been happening at Pearson School lately. In our classroom, we invited families in for a celebration of learning for our poetry unit. 3rd grade is learning about the Roman and Greek gods and goddesses. In science, they are learning about ocean habitats. The temperature is rising and more animals are endangered. In ELA, we learned about the invention. In 4th grade, we learned about the inventor of Candyland. We are currently studying geology, specifically studying the Renaissance period, learning about famous artists who created paintings and sculptures. For example, Leonardo da Vinci, Raphael, Donatello, and Michelangelo. Kids are excited to learn that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are named after these artists. Sixth graders are studying a novel called The Summer of the Mariposas, which, according to Miss Werner, is called a monograph. This is a hero's adventure. In math, they are dividing fractions and improving in their math fluency. My class discussed some ways to improve the school. We would like to have more time for lunch and recess, 4 more swing sets, more reading time and up-to-date books, more materials for indoor and outdoor activities, and an outdoor basketball hoop. We are all kind and encouraging each other to be kind. We try our best to make everyone happy and help each other. Overall, this school is a kind and safe place. It is not hard for students to make friends and meet new people. Thank you for inviting me.
All right.
Great job, Loretta. Thank you so much.
That's awesome.
I don't think
More
it was on.
reading time. I think that's fantastic. That's great to hear. It's wonderful to see students out and parents out tonight. Well done. Okay, superintendent's report, item C.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry to imagine that I could really have much to share other than budget. I feel like that has been 100% the focus for the last month, and yet, while we've all been busy doing that, lots of great things have been happening in the schools. As you know, we are still conducting our climate self-study. The students have now participated in responding to a survey, and we are preparing focus groups for staff, having completed, I shouldn't say having completed, we're gonna take one more stab at getting more parent participation by trying a Zoom focus group. So we're still doing that piece as well. And we had a professional development day on Friday that was a huge success. Staff worked collaboratively. Again, we're in an implementation year of a new curriculum, and so providing time for the collegiality and unpacking of the materials literally as well as intellectually, along with coaches for support and figuring out how to use that program effectively with kids was one of the main focus of the days. We had a fabulous Read Across America Day celebration. Thank you to those of you who came in and read. We had many community members, and it was a fabulous day. Pictures are appearing on our website and our Facebook. And one other thing going on under teaching and learning that's exciting is there's a practice called lesson study, where a group of teachers collectively, typically working with a coach, develops a lesson, goes ahead and does that lesson, comes out, reflects on, so how'd that go? Did we get the results we were looking for? Makes some tweaks, tries it again in a different classroom, so that they're recursively working on and thinking about their instructional practices, and that is a very powerful professional learning tool. So I'm excited that we've got that going on. We've done first round interviews for SSOs and are continuing to take applications and push that process forward. So we shared the number that the board agreed to with the town manager, who will be putting it as we gave it to him in the selectmen's budget. And Nancy and I are working at great haste to reformat things a little bit so that it is more similar to the format that the Board of Selectmen is used to looking at the rest of the town budget in. Our thought was, rather than have them hunting and searching through a foreign document, trying to put it in a similar format so that when they go to their budget book, we will be just another department along the way. It won't be 100% because we are very different, than the other departments, but nonetheless, we are seeking similarity. One other thing, operationally, we've met with the solar company that we were in talks with previously. They were very gracious and went back to the beginning and explained to me how it all works. And they had given us a proposal quite some time ago that they were leaning on, but agreed they would go back and relook at that now because a lot of time has gone by, and some of the parameters will have changed, to get some updated information from them on how that's effective for us. Nancy and I attended that meeting, as did Paul Harrington, so that's something we are working on collaboratively with the town. Let's see, so budget workshops. One of the things I don't think I've said out loud here is that I'm really pleased that we've either established or reestablished the meeting of a district leadership team. Kathy, Sarah Schachner, our Assistant Director of Student Services, Nancy and myself meet to start every week on Monday mornings to stay focused sort of with that district-wide lens. And I think that's important. We developed a blended budget. We, I think, very successfully have welcomed back Rosie and thanked Renee for keeping things afloat. I think Hinsdale School was and continues to be in great hands. And as it turns out, I have not published the Super Scoop number 5. It is waiting for me to give it final edits, but I have to get this to press by Friday morning, and I had all the optimism in the world that it would be out by today. So maybe tomorrow I'll be able to say I published number 5. And just a few things coming up. We have conferences coming up, and encourage all parents to attend. I think the last time around we had 96-7% of parents attend conferences, which is phenomenal, and we strive to meet that again. And most importantly, March 25th will be at Pearson School, a joint budget meeting. It's a Board of Selectmen meeting where we share the Board of Ed budget with the Board of Selectmen and the community. So we would love to have great participation for that.
Julie, could we be posting at the parent conferences as parents enter into the building, a sandwich board or some sort of board that announces the 25th?
Sure.
That way we get parent participation and parent, because at that joint budget meeting, if I'm not mistaken, is that where the parents, they have public comment?
I believe there will be public comment on the agenda. It's not our agenda to set, but I'll double check that with Paul.
Okay.
I have committee meetings on that day, but that we have committee meetings on March 25th. I don't know if that's something that's gonna have to
I'll
be
look.
adjusted.
At a minimum, we would want to start them earlier and move them to Pearson, or we could,
Yep, I've got
Reschedule
6:30.
them.
Yep.
because we set those a year in advance, and
Right,
we
right.
don't set the date for the March 25th, so.
Right.
Good catch though, Renee,
Yeah.
thank you.
I was gonna put it on my calendar.
Okay.
So it's 7 o'clock, and committees are supposed to start at 6:30, so we can kind of push that earlier, you were saying?
We could either do them at 5:30 or 6 at the school, depending on which ones need to meet and how much time we think we need, or we could move to a different day.
Okay. All right, we'll have to look at that.
Yep.
Okay, that's important. Okay, so for 7 o'clock on the 25th. Great. Does anybody have any comment about the handout, Julie, that you gave out? You want to call that, is that the blended budget? Back to your bullet under educational leadership.
The blended budget, it's not again in the packet, it was
Right.
shared
Last time?
2 times ago, maybe at a budget workshop.
Does anybody have any questions about the handout, or? Okay, all right. Thank you for your work, Julie. Okay, item C, committee reports, finance. I have really nothing to report other than we keep working on next year's budget. And that took a lot out of us, I would think, but I really do appreciate our collaborative effort last time we had a board meeting. I think that was synergetic, I guess, if that's a right word. I think that was really good to send a message to the community that we were unanimous in that budget, pushing it forward to the town manager's hands. I think that's a very positive step for us. Item E, liaison report, Gilbert School Corp. Renee, Kurt. Okay.
Renee?
Nothing to report?
Well, I know that the last Gilbert meeting, their budget was passed, and that was mostly what we discussed, was that at the last
Yes.
Gilbert meeting. I don't think there was anything else.
There's another meeting tomorrow night?
No,
No.
we,
Or which Wednesday? Oh, that's the following, the 19th?
yes.
Okay. How about the
So,
superintendent search?
Budget,
Is that moving on? Okay,
yeah, getting there.
okay. Great. Item F, correspondence to the board? None? Okay. Item 5, 6, 7, information items, enrollment reports. Julie?
Okay. So what can I tell you from this? Not a whole lot of recent movement. I think we're pretty status quo. One of the things I'm realizing is this doesn't show us the month immediately prior to tell you how much we moved since then. I think I'll add that because that's what I want to be able to say to you. But we have not, the only sort of drastic, if you will, change that took place was that our preschool enrollment took a big pop because we were able to find people interested in the half-day seats where previously we had had the thought that people couldn't make use of those because of the need for a middle-of-the-day transportation. But we added 15 students into the half-day preschool, some in the morning and some in the afternoon. So that was super. You know, every child who participates is one more child who will enter kindergarten more ready to learn. So we are thrilled to be able to do that.
Are we still expecting 55 for pre-K next year?
Kindergarten?
Or is it kindergarten?
No,
That's kindergarten.
Kindergarten, we're expecting 88.
Okay.
As of today, we picked up 2 more pre-registrations in the last 2 days. It was funny, at one point when we were discussing it, Emily, who's managing that pre-registration process, thought we had sort of flatlined a bit and that maybe things were leveling off. And then when we met today, she's like, so we got a new one today, and we got one yesterday. So I think we're wise to be looking at that live birth number and saying, let's expect the trend to follow the trends that it usually does and keep our fingers crossed that it levels off, but, so that's still climbing. The number that if we're able to offer the 2 full days and the 2 half days, we would take as many as 64 students into preschool, would be our ability, if you will. So,
Max,
right.
64. Okay. Okay. Quite a lot. Attendance?
Not a great month for us.
No.
Not a great month for us at all. Illness is running rampant still, although with the good weather the last couple of days, I'm so optimistic that maybe we're done with some of that. Although still, stomach bugs and things are crazy running around, but we're a little bit off. Our overall average daily attendance, although it says 89.7, we do bobble right around that 90% mark, so that is a modest drop overall. But the chronic absenteeism is obviously significantly up. Again, that moves because the number of absences gets larger each month that goes by, if that makes sense, because it's as of a certain date, and then once there's more days of school, your 10 absences could stop being chronically absent once the number of days that's a percent of is no longer as large. So
So Julie, last year in February, 23, 24, we were at 95. Average daily student attendance, 95%. And here it's, let's just say 90. How many kids does it take to move the needle, typically?
So we have roughly 600 kids. Someone do the math with me. So 600 kids, so 6 is 1%, right?
Right, okay.
You know, I'm really good at math when I'm not on the spot. So if 6 kids is 1%, so
It's 12.
So it'd be 30 for 5%. Right, so if you're 5% down, and then it'd be 60 for 10%. So if we're down to 90, right? Or
so
89,
5%, so
Would be
30 more kids absent on average
Yep.
in the month. So that is a real number of
Yeah.
humans.
Yeah. And
You think that is almost like 1 student per class more,
yeah.
which when you think of it that way, doesn't feel like quite as many. I mean,
And we're still doing the same practices, like visiting and calling and nurses and psychologists and everything else, and visiting, and I already said visiting. Okay. Okay,
Sending letters, we have bi-weekly attendance meetings,
yeah,
daily phone calls from the nurse,
okay,
parent meetings, when necessary, when we can do that.
yep,
Sometimes PPTs, goals, and IEPs to address attendance.
yeah, okay, thank you. Okay. Personnel.
we have 2 paras who have left and 2 have arrived. And we still have several open positions that we're looking to fill.
Seven?
Yes, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. However, we will not fill the intervention opening, and we will leave 1 paraeducator opening so that we are not bringing someone on in March
Right.
to have to lay them off only months later. Since we know that we need to reduce by an interventionist and a paraeducator. Those are 2 vacancies that we'll start with there. So we're losing the position, but there isn't a person losing their role.
Right,
People may
okay.
have to move to different locations, but
So you have 1 paraeducator for Hinsdale and 1 for Gilbert, and so one of them you're not hiring for? Is that my understanding?
right.
So where that is depends on IEPs.
Right, our ability to meet all of the IEPs.
Right.
The one at Gilbert, right? Did I see him?
Just so the public knows, what do we typically pay for a permanent building sub? And are there benefits associated with that position?
I believe the rate is based on $120 a day, and building substitutes can choose to take benefits. They get a small number of sick days and other similars. Our building subs are permanent substitutes, so they work the school calendar. Their commitment to us is the same type of schedule as a teacher would have.
So anybody listening in the public there, we do have positions available both at Pearson and Hinsdale. Okay.
And what's required for, say, the bachelor's for a permanent sub?
For a permanent building sub, yes,
But you don't need a teacher certification,
you
correct?
do not.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Okay. Anybody have any questions for Julie? Okay. Item D, monthly budget summary.
Okay, I'll just take you through the pages, drawing your attention to just a couple of highlights here and there. The reports don't change, so I know you're familiar with the format. I will point out to you on the first page that if everything goes according to plan, we could end up with $2,500 to put into the non-lapsing fund. No guarantees on that because there are many months and a lot of assumptions involved there, but Nancy, as you know, works really hard to keep all the plates spinning and the different columns balancing each other out so that when it's all said and done, we are not in default.
That would be bad.
I
Nancy,
was only halfway being facetious there, actually.
just so I'm correct, so I understand this, I looked at last month's February 11th Board of Ed packet, and I saw that I think the projected end of the year was about 12,000. And now we're down at 2,400. Got you. So it's really tight, because we have how many months left of school? March, April, May, June. We've got 4 months. So in just 1 month's time, we went from 12 to 24.
That can be as simple as one student who, under McKinney-Vento, requires transportation to a different district or to our district from somewhere else where we're paying half that cost. It can be one student through a PBT meeting being placed out of district, or one student moving in who's already in an out-of-district placement. Those can quickly tip the balance by far more than even the 12,000.
So we can't go over.
So, if I may, what's keeping us afloat right now in the projection is if we had to, we would be using, as of this month, $130,000 of the 660 fund, maintenance of equity fund, to keep us in the black. And that's reflected in the projection on the appropriated budget, and then it's also reflected as coming out in the projection on the grant page.
Wow.
Yeah, it's not great.
Okay. Thank you for keeping us in the black, Nancy. Especially that food service. Woo. That's tight too, 771. Okay.
On the appropriated budget page, one thing that caught my eye was the year-end balance in the wages column. And so as I go through, my technique, if you will, is see what jumps out at me is either different than I recall or something unexpected. And then poor Nancy, I do the question thing. And so as an example, that wages, and I think we've discussed this before, but with some of the vacant, first of all, we have vacant positions. You saw the list that we're trying to hire for. So having a vacant position, 7 of them, even for a period of 1 month, will end up leaving some balance there. And then also the superintendent wages during the time that Freeman was superintendent wasn't coming out of that line, it was coming out of the professional technical services. So although all of that money isn't Freeman's salary, if you look at the 68 over there and sort of think of it against the wages, it sort of cuts that in half, and then the rest of that would be unfilled positions probably, would be the difference. And pupil transportation is running over because McKinney-Vento is up significantly. And again, every child who goes to a placement that wasn't anticipated has to have a way to get there, and so those costs are not entirely predictable. Similarly with the out-of-district tuition.
Do we get any aid from McKinney-Vento circumstances from the state?
Nope.
Nothing? Okay. How do you budget for that?
Not well enough. I think there was nothing in this year's budget for it, and we put 2,000 in next year's budget for it, and we've already spent way more than that, so. When we were building the budget, I think So they changed the way that worked. It used to be you only paid if it was your, God bless you, your student, you needed to provide that transportation to get them back to your district if they were living somewhere else. And then in recent years, it switched to be that the districts share those costs. And so I think we're experiencing more costs than we had in the past. And it will be a shortfall for sure with next year's budget. It'll be one of those we're waiting and hoping that we've got some unfilled positions for a minute because that helps bridge that gap.
Speaking of unfilled positions, if the permanent building sub positions don't get filled, how do we manage that? Teachers covering teachers?
Well, so the permanent building subs are your first line of defense when a teacher's out. Ideally, if we could find them, I would suggest we hire 2 building subs in each building. There's not a day where we don't need 2 subs. And what they are is people who are committing to you and committing to being there every day. So building subs are a home run. And in fact, I think we should look at the structure of that and see if we can do something to make it a little bit more of a desirable position, because we so often don't have subs, and when we don't, we're covering teachers either with our interventionists, is often the first line of defense. When things get really tight, where else do we go? The coaches have gone into classrooms, we've had administrators going into classrooms. The classroom teachers can't really cover each other. In a high school, you can do that more easily because people teach, 5 out of 8 periods. They can choose to cover on their prep, but in elementary school, that doesn't really work the same way. The teachers only have 40 minutes a day where they're not with the kids, so.
Is there some sort of contractual obligation if a teacher loses their prep that they're given financial compensation? So that's money out of the pocket too. Okay. What's that rate? Do you know? Okay. But it's something.
And we could look it up. I think you actually have the contract open on your
It's
computer.
actually better that they don't know because they haven't had to do it much.
And again, in an elementary school, if we tried to have teachers use their prep period to cover other classrooms, one classroom of kids would have 7 different teachers in the course of a day. It would be mayhem. So that's sort of always going to be the last choice at the elementary level, but a great choice at the high school.
Right. Okay.
So if you want to flip to the grant budget, I'll just point out to you what Nancy was referring to. That estimated adjustments column on the far right there is, I think Nancy describes that as the magic. That's what she brings to the table, is she's the person who is keeping all those plates spinning in the air. And she's estimating that it will take $130,000 of the 660 account to get us to that 2488 balance. So you had mentioned earlier that there's a possibility that we may get some more excess cost money from the state this year. If that happens, that will defray some of the overages in special education and theoretically lessen our need to dip into the 660 account. And we don't have that confirmed for sure that it'll happen, but, the sources that are predicting that are not actually like state endorsed. The school state finance project is sort of their own independent group.
Okay.
So we look to that as a potential, but we wouldn't be banking on it until it's official and we have a number.
Right.
And as soon as it's official and we have a number, it'll start showing up in the grant report.
I'm sorry, when would that be, you think? Official? Okay, all right.
Depends on the General Assembly.
When it passes its own budget? Is that okay.
They passed the bill.
Yeah.
And that's being signed into, if it hasn't already been, the governor has indicated he is going to sign it. But then it has to get, through all of the governmental rigmarole and machinations to get to the State Department so that the finance office can do their magic.
We won't know the amount until later in April, what it's actually going to be. And part of it is divvying it up between 169 communities.
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's better news than what it was about a month ago. Okay. Anybody have any questions? Okay. Wherever you want to go next.
I think I'll just skip ahead to the food service budget and the accompanying chart. I noticed and was pleasantly surprised that I think our daily lunches maybe for the first time since early in the year seem to be sort of matching last year. And our breakfasts are actually surpassing last year for the first time. I'm guessing we had more days maybe, and I'm not sure why they were more in the summer, but since school started, we've been doing less breakfast and less lunch than last year, but this month we seem to have turned that. So I absolutely have no explanation for why. It's just good news.
It could be because, the one school is trying to use more fresh ingredients,
Could be.
and if that's the case, then we will adopt more of that at the other school as well.
That would be wonderful. And the other thing I want to just point out about the chart, because I get so excited when I see, oh, look, we're breaking even. But I will remind us that there is Board of Ed subsidy for $14,000, which is us kicking in, so it's not actually totally breaking even. Do we budget to subsidy it?
Yes.
We do, okay.
And it's reflected in the appropriated budget. Unfortunately.
How much did we budget for this year? The 14,000?
We did not budget specifically for it this year. Last year was the first time that we got caught.
Okay.
To subsidize it, so.
But we've budgeted to subsidize it in the coming year.
Yes.
Do you remember for how much?
I think it's around the same amount.
Okay. And that's all I was going to draw your attention to.
Okay, thank you. That was item D. Okay, item 8, action items. A, healthy food certification. This is an annual certification.
And it needs to be the exact verbiage,
Read into the record.
read into the record,
Okay.
so.
A
it's
motion.
all legit. And then we'll have to vote on it in the minutes, when the minutes are approved next month before I can submit it.
Okay. So, there are two separate motions in this, so we need a motion for each. Okay. I'm going to read it. Healthy food certification for Board of Ed action. The requirement for annual HFC statement, Connecticut General Statute, Section 10-2215F, requires that each local Board of Education or governing authority for all Connecticut public school districts participating in the National School Lunch Program must take action annually to certify whether all food items sold to students separately from reimbursable meals will or will not meet the Connecticut nutrition standards. Public schools include all public schools, regional educational service centers, Connecticut Technical High School System, charter schools, inter-district magnet schools, and endowed academies. We request that both of the following motions be affirmably passed. Motion language for healthy food option. Pursuant to CGS Section 10-215F, the Winchester Board of Education certifies that all food items offered for sale to students in the schools under its jurisdiction and not exempt from the Connecticut nutrition standards published by the Connecticut State Department of Education will comply with the Connecticut nutritional standards during the period of July 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2026. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to students separately from reimbursable meals at all times from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on school premises sponsored by the school or non-school organizations and groups. Do I have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion to accept.
Thank you, Renee. Do I have a second?
Second.
That's Kurt. Is there discussion on that motion? Sort of boilerplate. Okay. Seeing none, all in favor? That's unanimous, Lenise? 1, 2, 3. That's 6 of us. 6-0. Motion for a language for combined food and beverage exemptions. The Winchester Board of Education or governing authority will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutrition standards and beverages not listed in Section 10-221Q of the Connecticut General Statutes, provided that the following conditions are met. 1, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. 2, the sale is at the location of the event. And 3, the food and beverage items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event is an occurrence that involves more than just a regularly scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activity. For example, soccer games, school plays, and the interscholastic debates are events, but soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. The regular school day is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location means where the event is being held. Do I have a motion to accept that?
I'll make a motion to accept that.
Thank you, Jeanette. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Kurt. Any question? All in favor? 6-0, Lenise. Thank you, everyone. That takes care of item A, healthy food certification on the agenda. Item B, sick leave letter from the Board of Education.
At a previous meeting, actually, I think, Kurt, you had brought up the subject that you had become aware of the sick leave law and asked that we talk about it, and we discussed a little bit, and we took a look at Ellington's advocacy that they were using to lobby to have public schools either exempted in general or to have collective bargaining units exempted because they have other protections in place. I'll share with you quickly some of the craziness. Barb, help me if I get this right, but the objection that school districts, including ours, have to the sick leave law is not about not wanting to treat people as professionals or allow them to meet their needs. In fact, their contracts offer more of everything than what's in the sick leave law. The only piece of it that's different is that it has the clause that people can use this time incrementally in 1-hour increments. And as we've talked about in our setting, that is really complicated. Barb had a request from someone who wanted to leave 15 minutes early in order to go to a doctor's appointment. Now, ordinarily, prior to the law, she would have just said, yeah, get someone to cover, the last 15 minutes and go. Like, that's easy. We treat people as professionals. But because we are now in a position where not under the law, we have to use this, we have to use it equally across all, we have to track it. So she said to the teacher, absolutely, of course, you need to take a 1-hour increment and it'll count towards the sick leave law. So the teacher just went from wanting 15 minutes to an hour. Not the end of the story. Then it turns out that the teacher has already been out more than the roughly 20 hours that they're eligible for because the law went into effect mid-year. And so they can't take 1 hour. And so now they have to take a half a day or 3.5 hours or whatever. So the teacher wanted 15 minutes, and the law has created this craziness that's pushing that to where they would end up having to take a half a day so that we can implement it with fidelity. And that's what this law is doing, is it's taking common sense out of our ability, common sense and professionalism and kindness out. So at your request, I communicated with the Ellington board chair and said, my board likes what you did, do you mind? And they said, have at it, we'd be thrilled. So we took their letter, we took out where they had the names of their representatives because ours are different. So we made it ours, we put it on our letterhead, we changed their board members' names to your names. So we tinkered modestly, but we've given full attribution to the Ellington Board of Ed. We don't claim to have authored the entire document. And if you decide as a board that you still wish to submit this, I have a clean copy for people to sign, and I will get it in the hands of the committee that would be able to take action on this and also send copies to our people, Steve Harding and Jay Case.
I have reservations, and I do want to share them. maybe this needs some editing, because the remedy in the box is lobbying for exempting all school employees, and I've shared this earlier. That includes maintenance secretaries, paras. That would exclude them from this law. And the concern is how this affects direct contact with kids. So I'm not sure that maintenance and secretaries would flip that bill or fill that bill. That's sort of where they want to go with this, but I think that's overly broad in terms of lobbying. That if we want to really lobby, we're talking about people that have direct contact with kids in the building that affect a schedule. Secretaries typically do not, nurses typically do not, maintenance typically does not. So I think the word school employees, I think, as I said, is overly broad.
Well, our nurses would fit that. If our nurse needs to be out for an hour, we would have to pay a full day Delta sub an incredible amount of money for that 1 hour. Paras also, we wouldn't be able to cover for an hour. It would
Okay.
leave a blank.
So maintenance and secretaries, I mean, one of the benefits about this law is to expand the reasons why you take time away, of which includes additional reasons like family as opposed to oneself. That could include grandparents, it can include siblings. So I'm cautious about telling a secretary that you would be under this and then not give them that access to the state law that allows them to take time off for a sibling or grandchild or a parent. The other thing it expands is to allow people time to take if they're a victim of family violence, sexual assault. So we can put that into a collective bargaining agreement in our district. But I also know that if the law is written differently in the end, that trumps any collective bargaining agreement unless the law says it. Meaning it has to go through the sausage at the state level. And in the state level, it has to say that collective bargaining units can trump that law that they create. That does not happen in my experience. Laws often trump collective bargaining unit agreements. And in fact, when you do negotiate, you defer to the law. So I'm hesitant because it's going to carve, it's a message anyway, when it says, the way it says school employees, it's going to tell our secretaries, you can't be covered by this law that gives you these other additional reasons why you might need an hour. And I know we talked about this earlier about professionalism, and it does in this 3rd paragraph, it does speak about an existing phenomena of chronic staff absenteeism. And as we discussed, it can be an issue in some communities. I think that this can be an affront to some people that take very seriously their attendance in the building. And for us as a board to sign on to that, I think that's a slap in the face of some professionals who really tried to get to class and get to school. And it's not cited here. I know we talked about it. We've got issues in some cases where people are absent, students are absent, sometimes teachers are absent. But I don't think it needs to necessarily be part of what we sign on to. What we're trying to do is simply look at the law, and I think this paragraph just adds salt into the wound. Without citation. So, I mean, I just have to take, I'm just going to say that for the record. Maybe this needs to be edited in the way that it just gets to the point as opposed to, I mean, we're looking at people that have direct contact with kids. It affects the school schedule. Because it does go to our representatives, right? So and there's what, 3 people missing tonight? So my recommendation is we delay this. That's how I feel. Because we've already edited from the other district.
Is there a timeline for this? Is there like what,
No,
so it's,
it's not something that we have to do.
okay, so maybe taking a closer look at it would be a good idea.
Yeah. It's fine.
I mean, I didn't look at it until tonight, truthfully. I mean, really, really sat down with the language. And I mean, maybe, it's definitely because of my bias. The law has unnecessarily exacerbated in our existing school phenomena, chronic absenteeism. That hurts.
I mean, we have
But it's not cited here. Like, I was just looking at an article from 2024, Greenwich Times. They talked about how teacher absenteeism has actually dropped in Greenwich from the previous year. So, I just think that the way it's written is overly broad, and we can probably eliminate that. I'm sure that they know that there's issues of absenteeism, teacher absenteeism, but we as a board sign on to that. We're telling our teachers, and we haven't seen the data. We're telling our teachers, you're chronically absent.
well,
Do we want to say that without looking at the data?
No, I mean, we can look at the data. I didn't take that. It sounds like it's statewide, right? Not our district, but I understand what you're saying.
So maybe we could say it's statewide, but I want to cite that. You know what I'm saying? I want to see that data. Because
mean,
this goes to
we ha-
JK's.
we have Torrington paying bonuses
Right.
to teachers.
For them not to use their sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that created a firestorm just this
noticed.
past week. Yeah. So, I mean, districts are trying to get creative in ways to prevent this. So if districts are going to that extreme, I mean, it's happening.
Yeah. So,
Right.
if I'm understanding this correctly, like basically, like teachers would be able to take an hour if they needed to by this state
Without any
statute,
notice.
right? Without any notice, take an hour here, then an hour
Yes.
there. So, yes, they work with children. So basically, we need to. There needs to be some sort of parameters set around that. Obviously, I don't think it has anything to do with chronic absenteeism of teachers because that's not really what we're talking about. We're
No.
talking about a teacher saying, "I have to go leave for an hour."
Right.
Right.
Right, but
So-
aren't there guidelines around that?
Well, this is what we're trying to develop, right? Is the guideline around that. So like if
Well, no, we're
No.
trying to
No.
prevent the state dictating to our school district, right? That we have to now adhere to their rules, where if a teacher comes to Barb or to Rosie and says, I need to take a half hour early, now the state is forcing them, depending on how much time they've already accrued, to take more time.
Right,
which
to
is
take an
causing
hour.
more problems because
Right.
you can cover a 15, 30-minute thing.
Right.
You can't cover a half day because now we're paying subs and all that. So the state, again, is trying to put their finger on things and tell us how we should be doing it. And what we're trying to say is we respect the professionalism of our teachers. If they need 15 minutes or 30 minutes to go to a doctor's appointment, we can just give it to them without having to then dock them.
But I think that what Nora is, like the way that it's worded, it is a little bit like teachers are taking time off, you know, right?
No, I think it's
Chronic.
more, I think it's, we're asking, if I understand this correctly, we're saying to the state, and we're gonna give it to Jay and to Steve, don't penalize districts who are doing it right and respect the professionalism of teachers. Let us handle it without dictating to us that we have to follow your guidelines that you're setting up.
I'd be interested to know where this
Is that
originated
correct?
from to begin with. Is there a
Ellington.
problem with teachers being able to take time off when
wasn't
they need to
actually-
during, in
no,
the
it
state of
didn't.
Connecticut?
It wasn't actually designed with education in mind. It was designed to
For any industry.
protect workers in
Yeah.
general. Depending which room you're sitting in for the conversation, I've heard said that the people who proposed this law never intended for it to cover people who were
education.
already part of collective bargaining agreements.
Okay.
Our folks, so the law doesn't just do the hour increments, it expands, as Nora said, the reasons that you can use a sick day. Well, our teachers have 7 emergency days, people who are on other contracts have family illness days. Like, our staff, through their contracts, have the ability to take days for lots of reasons, not just personal illness. If you didn't, this law would be helpful to you. Our folks are confined to half days and whole days because that's the structure of education. And our understanding is it was never intended to change our setting, and yet it got applied universally.
Okay, all right, I understand. So, I mean, I think that there's enough questions about this that we should take
Sure.
some time to take a look at it.
We can shelve it.
But just to clarify, your issue is particularly with the paragraph that says Connecticut's paid sick leave law fails to solve a problem for the public school systems, and then that line specifically that says this law has unnecessarily exacerbated an already existing school phenomena, chronic staff absenteeism. That's like the part that you would like stricken from the record, or stricken from the.
Well,
Exempt all school employees, I think that's.
And then
It's the bigger is the all the school employees, because
Yeah,
the example, I mean, we're trying to, this wasn't meant really for teachers.
sure.
Okay, so we carved them out.
Yep.
But what about secretaries? You know, there could be maintenance people that would benefit from this law. So, I think it's overly broad.
But back to your point, right, this law has unnecessarily exacerbated an already existing school. That's the whole reason that they came up with this law, correct? So that's what they're pointing out.
No, this law, this is the reason why the Board of Ed, what district?
No,
is it?
this, right,
Ellington.
Ellington.
This is why Ellington is
Right,
protesting it.
that's what I
It's
meant.
not why they came up with the law.
No, but that's, right, this law has unnecessarily exacerbated an already existing school phenomena, leaving educators, staff. So that's why we're presenting this, is because they're forcing us to, right?
The
So
state of
perhaps we
Connecticut
can, right, so
to
maybe,
comply.
right, so maybe, because it should be in there, this is the whole reason we're sending this to them, but maybe we can reword it differently, so if you don't want to be offensive.
Right, because Ellington's concern is chronic staff absenteeism, but ours may not be. Our concern may be,
is the state's
maybe
telling
that,
us what to do.
you know,
Well, it's taking the hour without notice is a problem, taking an hour is a
right.
problem.
Yeah, there's problems.
There's definitely problems.
Okay, well, let's just show it then.
So let's highlight that paragraph.
Yep. Paragraph 3.
I'm gonna share the Google Doc of this with all of you, so that whatever it is you ultimately do want to send as advocacy, you have access to.
Can you share the original too, that Ellington came up with?
She gave it to us.
I know, but
Yeah.
Donnelly
I'd be
was what
happy to
Kyle-
send it along with a link to a Google Doc so that you all
Kyle, I
have both.
Because I keep all of my
So is this something we
documents
can
in one
review
big
in our
bin.
policy
I did
committee?
too.
Or
That's probably a good way to
Shed some.
do that. Editing in the
Does.
policies.
Yep, I'm done.
Sandra, do you want to
Yes, ma'am.
take this to policy and we can do our edits in policy?
Sure.
Okay, whenever that's gonna be, because right now, 7 o'clock is another meeting. We'll have to figure that out when. Because right now, policy meets on the 25th,
Right.
okay? And meetings start at 6:30, but we have that other meeting starting at 7. But okay, we'll put that on the policy. I just, I would like to carve it out, just specifically speaking to people that deal with kids and are with kids every day. I get it, I understand the problem. And I don't know if we need to, and I understand why Ellington put that paragraph in there. This is a lobbying effort to try to convince state reps to change the law. So they have to put the reasons in there. And I would imagine, I guess that Connecticut's got chronic issues for absenteeism, but I'm taking that on Ellington's word right here. I'm not in the know. I haven't seen citations, I haven't seen data.
Well, we can put in, can't we we'll just put in our own, because the whole reason we're trying to do this is because it unjustly penalizes districts who are trying to do it right by forcing their teachers to adhere to a statute that was written by the state.
Right, what we're doing in Winchester is working, right? So why
I always feel,
mess with it?
let's do what we need to do,
Is it working?
telling us what to do.
We had already actually had conversations, Nancy and I, about that same idea that Torrington did. I asked Nancy, I'm like, could you help me cost it out? Like, how much could we offer to pay people if they have no more than X number of absences in a school year and still come out ahead?
I'd be interested to see the data on that and how effective it is at some point. I don't know if we're gonna
Sick
see
days
that,
are
but-
supposed to be used as sick days, right?
Yeah, I think the
Right.
point is, what you're saying though is, if you're gonna pay out for those amount of sick days, you would lose more than paying a stipend. It doesn't look good from a optics perspective, but if you're finding that there's a certain amount of teachers using a certain amount of sick days, then they get a reward basically, and it ends up being a cost average better.
And my other thought is we pay a substitute $120, $30 when a teacher is out. So the thought was, and I wouldn't focus only on sick days, my
Yeah.
thought was personal days,
Absentee.
of which the teachers have lots, so no more than whatever that right number of absences was in a school year. I don't believe in perfect attendance awards. I feel like if you're sick, you should stay home.
Yeah.
So
No,
I
and
would
you know,
ne-
and I think that it's not, it's a nice number because it's not like a huge amount of money, right? And it's also like, teachers also we have to do lesson plans, we have to think about a sub coming into our room, so it's a lot to take a day off, it's not
Yep.
easy. It's more work, really, so.
I see that anxiety every time.
Yeah, exactly, so it's not like something that I think would move the needle that much, but it might a little bit, right?
I think the financial piece and then just we'd rather have our folks there. And so if there's a little incentive where someone's saying, oh, I'm tired, and they can say, I can muster through one more day this week. You know, just that little, excitement at, but there's a good reason, in addition to the fact that it's harder to stay out. And
Yeah, but I would go back to just talking about being fiscally, I get the whole thing of why Torrington's doing that, but if we're talking about the professionalism of our teachers and that they're gonna obviously be using their time appropriately, right? We're trying to help with this so that they don't have to. If you're sick, you stay home. If you need a mental health day, I've been there, you stay home, but you don't treat your sick day
Like an off day.
as a vacation, more vacation time. I don't know, I would like to discuss that further.
Sure.
Alrighty then. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you.
Item 9, public comment. I should have this memorized by now. I love this. I'm gonna try to memorize this. The Winchester Board of Education welcomes to its business meeting 2 opportunities set aside for public comment. We welcome and encourage public participation and valued part of a communication and input with the Winchester Public Schools. We appreciate your adherence to the following. Complete the requested information on the sign-on sheet on the table. State your name and address. You'll be allotted 3 minutes. Be advised that it's not our practice to engage in dialogue regarding the commentary. The superintendent of schools will be directed by the chairperson to prepare an appropriate response. Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? Seeing none. Okay, I will, item 10, future agenda items, besides this one rolling to policy. Anything else for the board for next time we meet in April? A
We're
regular-
gonna have an exploratory committee on extending recess period time. Also to what it's going to take to get a tag program going again and a drone program going again.
You want
Okay.
ice cream at Hinsdale too?
Free
Sorry,
ice cream.
that was fresh, that was funny.
Okay, recess time, tag, and drone. Okay, any other items?
I think I have questions about what it is we're asking for specifically to do at a meeting. I heard you say committee, I don't know.
Exploratory committee you had mentioned.
Exploratory, yeah,
So maybe this goes to curriculum committee?
we could.
Because those aren't necessarily, they're not matters of so you said a few things, and I don't want to lump them. Recess time, we probably do have a policy we could review in policy. What were the other topics? You said tag.
Tag and drone.
Drone.
So drone is definitely not an issue of policy.
No, that would be
And
education.
tag is program. I don't think there's, I mean, there is policy around, I won't think of the name of the policy right now, but there is a policy that talks about providing challenging program, but it isn't specifically a tag program. So that one also is probably not a matter of policy. We could talk about that as curriculum.
The drone, is that a club?
Sorry, Renee.
It's okay.
Drone a club?
It was not,
It was part of the TAG program one year, and we did it in the CHAMPS program last year.
Okay. Champs, okay. So that's extracurricular. Okay, but that, so tag vis-à-vis drone could be going to curriculum committee. Anything for the Board of Ed for next time, regular board meeting?
I know we discussed in the self-evaluation, possibly reading our mission statement
Right.
each
Yes.
meeting.
Forgot to do that. Thank you.
Gilbert does it in a nice way. Each person takes a turn reading at each meeting.
You can do that. Get ready to read out loud, everyone. All right, then we'll do that in April. Thank you for the reminder, Kurt. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn at 8:25?
Make a motion.
second.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Sandra. All in favor of adjournment? 6-0. Renee, are you abstaining?
Yep.
Okay, 6-0. Lenny, 6-0, 8:25.